ready?
Yeah.
Let's go, baby! We're going to college football playoff! Woo! Let's go, Bearcat!
Let's go. Orange in the day, black in the night. Stripes in our veins, sparks gonna fly. The beast is awake, orange, black and white. Cause when the jungle come alive, day we ignite in Cincinnati, we gon' rise in in the jungle, we unite in dripping orange and black and white. Day when we fight, live and die in these stripes. Wake up the beast, every game day is a feast. Time to bust it off the leash. In the jungle, dripping heat. Tigers strike the city streets. East side, stand up. West side, stand up. If you reppin', who that? Time to put your hands up. Dingle stripes, we in it. New day, new age, yeah, we get it. Cincinnati, jungle fitted. Who they in our house, we win it. Orange and black and white, we build it. Earn our stripes, you know we kill it. Bleed our colors, jungle dripping. Nasty, natty, yeah, we live it. Lit the crowd, get the city loud. Yeah, we feasting now. Fit the pounce, make the city howl. Now we beastin' now. Thunder through the tunnel, from the sideline to the huddle. Stripes we tatted on the jungle when we flex that who they muscle on them. Stripes, Cincinnati, we gon' rise in in the jungle, we unite in dripping orange and black and white. All day when we fight, live and die in these stripes. Stripes. Now who gotta move like it on? Stripes. Now who wanna move dancing on? Stripes. Now who wanna move on? If you got stripes and you let the city know you rock 'em, yeah we got 'em, yeah we fought 'em. Like that black and orange Apollo, bingo bottle, never stop it till the beast and know who they rockin' with the diamond stripes, flossin' on the ring. Cincinnati, she's our queen, we gon' show the world who king. Orange in the day, black in the night. Stripes in our veins, sparks gonna fly. The beast is awake, orange, black and white. Cause when the jungle come alive, day we ignite in Cincinnati, we gon' rise in the jungle, we unite in dripping orange and black and white. All day when we fight, live and die in these stripes. Now who gotta move like it on? Now who wanna move dancing on? Now who wanna move on? All day when we fight, live and die in these stripes.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the show. This is Sports with Strawberry Ice. I'm your host, the Iceman, Jeff Trenopole. And as always, I bring you sports from a West Side point of view right here in the great city of Cincinnati, Ohio, home of the University of Cincinnati Bearcats, who are playoff bound, and they take on the Alabama Crimson Tide this Friday. I cannot wait. Now, do me a favor, if you found the show, hit that like and subscribe button, smash that thumbs up on the 1,435 subscribers. That is awesome. And as always, exclusively in the YouTube chat crew, we're doing super chat. So if you like to support what I'm doing, please give me a super chat and I will get up there as fast as we can. Now I'm coming to you live from the Ice Cave, and the Ice Cave is brought to you by T Properties. T Properties, quality housing for quality people. Check out their website at www.tpropertiesllc.com for all your rental property management needs and your rental needs. All right, like I said at the beginning of the show, Bearcats are playing this Friday. I have a very special guest today. He played for the Bearcats for 1 year, but if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be where we're at. I mean, all these guys, past Bearcats, all of them have reasons for what has happened this year. It all started with these guys. He's none other than Ben Mauk. Ben, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Oh, not much. Doing real well. Just enjoying this holiday break from school and excited to watch the Bearcats this weekend.
Absolutely, man. So are you planning on going down? Or are you going to be – I think you're in Missouri right now, right?
I'm in Southwest Missouri and actually Ozark, Missouri, which I guess you could say it has affiliation with the TV show, but down here in Ozark, Missouri. And we're just going to stay together as a family and watch the game. I got my wife and 5 kids, and then my mom and dad and brothers and sisters are all going to watch the game on Friday. So we're excited.
Somebody, Caden says you're his uncle.
Oh yeah, yeah. Caden is my nephew.
Okay.
He's been staying with me this school year and
Oh,
doing real
cool.
well. And excited to see him play football next year.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, how excited are you about the Bearcats? You know, from where, because you were here, like I said, only for a short time, for 1 year. We were here at Kelly's first year, but from where we were when you guys were here, through the Kelly years, to the Toville years, now through the Luke years, and actually getting a shot at the college football playoffs. Well, how does this, as a former Bearcat, how does this make you feel? Because I mean, you guys had a big part of this.
Yeah, I'm real excited to see what they've done this year and watch them beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame and get in the college football playoff. But for me, it goes back to when I was coming out of high school. Me and my parents went down to Cincinnati for just to visit the city and so forth. And I think Coach Mentor was the head coach at that time. And I remember my mom telling me when we left campus, she said, "You'll never go to school here." Just she felt like there's a stigma there and kind of dangerous and all the crime and so forth. But then, fast forward just 3 or 4 years later when I was leaving Wake Forest and, we took the same tour with my parents and just the changing of the campus and city and environment and so forth. And after being away at Wake Forest, she said, "You're not going anywhere else." So there's a rapid change there in the early 2000s.
Mhm.
And then when I came in with Coach Kelly, they'd already kind of established themselves the year before in 2006. They beat Rutgers.
Yep.
And everyone stormed the field. I remember watching that game on ESPN. Like, man, that's in the state of Ohio. I'd love to be a part of something like that, just a football culture.
Right.
And so I got to do that in 2007. We had a pretty good year, won 10 games, and then they went to 2 BCS bowls there.
Right.
The 2 years after with Tony Pike and so forth, and Zach Caleris leading the helm. And then they've always been on the brink. I remember in 2007 when I got there, I said, "Man, if we just win games, people will show up." I remember I had a teammate tell me, they're like, "Mauk, nobody comes to our games." And I said, "If we win games, this is a professional city. You got the Bengals, you got the Reds. People will come watch a team that wins." And we saw that happen in 2007. And then just watching, Ohio States and those teams that were in the top 10 that year kept losing. And I was like, man, if we just keep winning, we got to be in the conversation.
Right.
And so at that time, we're in the Big East and, you had an automatic BCS bid. So we weren't that far off. As long as you beat West Virginia and Louisville, you're going to be in the conversation. And then, going to the American Athletic Conference, being, kind of out of the Power Five, it still was, hey, that's a city that, you have the Bengals and the Reds there. And if you win, you got to be in the conversation. And now they're right where I expected them to be when I was there in 2007.
Oh, absolutely, man. My freshman year was 1993. Where the grid is now, where they tailgate, that was parking lots.
Right. Yeah, I remember the first game I was there. Coach Kelly was really trying to establish something, and he said, normally, I guess the players I talked to said they used to bus from the hotel over to the stadium. Coach Kelly said, "No, we're walking."
Yeah.
He said, the fans are going to be there. We're going to walk. And remember that first game, we walked to the stadium and nobody was there. And then, by the end of the year, people had kind of caught on. The band and cheerleaders had caught on to what was going on. And that walk was completely different from Southeast Missouri at the beginning of the year until we played, UConn and West Virginia there at the end of the year. A lot of people started showing up and you could tell, hey, this is, they're on to something here.
Right.
If you get a quality coach that's willing to stay, you can recruit local talent. And bring in some nationally profiled players, and you can win games and be in the conversation. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a ton of talent, high school talent, just in the city of Cincinnati that would leave, because it wasn't, UC wasn't a powerhouse. Which, I mean, we're not necessarily a powerhouse now, but we're on the map. I'll put it to you that way. We're on the map now.
That's what one of the genius things that Coach Kelly did was hire Kerry Combs from Coleraine.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I was in those staff meetings the next year as a graduate assistant. Or quality control, whatever they named me. But Coach Kelly had a 100-mile radius. We got to take the top players in a 100-mile radius, and that's all we need. And then we can go to Florida or California and get one or two guys. But if we just stay in a 100-mile radius, I think Coach Fickle now has a 300-mile radius because they're kind of established themselves. But there's enough players and local talent that you can be in a national powerhouse.
Absolutely. Now you came here because you injured your arm. I think is it right in Wake Forest. How's the arm now? Is it still, you still got problems with it, or is it all better?
Yeah. So I train a lot of quarterbacks on the side. I got kids that come in from Arkansas and all over the this tri-state area, Kansas, Arkansas, and Missouri, and I train them. And Every once in a while, if it's a good day, I'll throw back and forth with them, and I'm like, man, I still got it. And then next day I wake up and be pretty sore and have to take some Tylenol. So I throw pretty well underhand. I thought, hey, if there's an underhand football league, I may join it, but it doesn't give me too many problems today.
You got a beer league softball. There you go. That's up your alley now.
Yeah, that's my wife did say she wanted to get in a co-ed softball league, so I was like, well, we'll look at that. I played in, I think, a celebrity all-star game in the Cincinnati area with a couple of former Bengals players, and I fielded one from the outfield and threw it straight to home. Pretty good throw, but my arm hurt a little bit, so I'd have to play either catcher or pitcher or something.
Exactly. So the year you guys played, who are some of your favorite targets that you had? Did Kelsey, was he there? Was Travis Kelsey when you were there, or was he after you?
No, Jason played offensive line for us, and then Travis came in the year I was trying to get my 6th year. He came in as a freshman quarterback from Cleveland, so I knew of him, and he was there that year after I played when I was still trying to get another year to play. But so I'm familiar with him. But I remember a conversation we had in a quarterback room was, our coach came in and said, if there's one guy comes down to the end of the game, who are you going to throw it to? And all the quarterbacks are saying who they wanted, and we had a few on the team that year. Marcus Barnett, called him Bones. He was a freshman. He's about 140 pounds, but he would do anything to catch the ball. And then Dominic Goodman, who's one of the all-time leading receivers in Cincinnati history. I had 2 pretty good targets to get the ball to, and then Marty Gilliard was there too, still young, but so I had some good guys to get the ball to. And Connor Barwin.
Awesome.
Connor Barwin was a tight end.
Yes. Yeah, because people forget about it because he was a tight end when you played. And I think the next year they switched him to linebacker, and that turned him into an NFL player. He got to play for a couple years as linebacker.
Very athletic player.
He's a big. I mean, I'm tall. I'm like 6'3". I remember standing next to him one time. I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?"
Yeah.
He's like,
I
way
think
up there.
I think Connor, if I remember right, before I was there, was part of the basketball team too.
Yes,
Basketball and football, and then focused on football, and which was a good decision for him to play in the NFL for a while.
Yeah, he played on the basketball team because that's when Huggins was gone and we didn't have a whole lot of players. So, so kind of got to go in there and play. So, do you ever get back to Cincinnati? Have you gotten to a game this year at all?
So, not this year. In 2014, my dad retired. He was the athletic director, head football coach at Kenton, Ohio, and my younger brother had went to Mizzou, and my sister was living in Springfield, Missouri, because she went to school out here. And so when my dad retired, they wanted to be closer to my sister, and I was like, well, I'm not going to be the last one in Ohio, so I came with them.
Right.
So we're all out in Missouri. My older brother has since moved here, and kind of stuck here in Missouri, and I watch them on TV. I'm excited about them moving to the Big 12 because there's Kansas State and Oklahoma State and a lot of teams out this way that I can go watch and play. But I haven't been able to get back as much as I'd like to, and then I got married and kind of focused on our family and what's best for us here. And I told him, I said, we got to get back to the Nippert Stadium one time. You guys got to see what a night game at Nippert's like. And
dude, I say that all the time. Nippert Night is one of the, I've said it a million times on the show here. Nippert Night is one of the best college venues around. And people ask me why. I'm like, I think it's because you're in a hole in the ground. You're in the middle of campus. The noise doesn't really go anywhere. It's just awesome. What's it like playing as a player at Nippert Night?
It was a very exciting atmosphere. I think, after I had a different experience because I played down at Wake Forest for 3 years, and kids down there, they come to the games in like suit and tie, and the girls will wear sundresses. And I was like, man, this is just, I'm from Ohio. This isn't a football atmosphere. And then I had that opportunity to play at Cincinnati in 2007, and just to see kids start to paint their face and paint their chest and be freezing cold. And that year, I think it was unexpected. I think they just let kids come into the game because they wanted more fans there. And I remember we were playing Marshall. I talked to Mike Daniels, who's now the running back coach at Georgia Tech. I talked to him a little bit, and I was at the beginning of the year, I said, people will come to our games. And he's the one that told me, he said, no one comes to our games. And I was like, if we win, people will come here. And we remember we were playing Marshall, and they took the advertisements out of the first 20 rows of the stadium because there's so many people that were trying to get in. And I remember looking up in the second half, and there's people literally sitting in trees trying to watch the game.
Right.
And so I was like, man, you just don't get this kind of atmosphere anywhere else. You can go to Ohio State and play in those big stadiums and so forth, but the atmosphere of being right on campus, sold out. At that time, not many schools sold beer in the stadium, so a lot of people are coming for that, and just a different atmosphere. And I remember they told me before the year we come out like the Bengals with the fireworks and everything.
Yeah.
And they run down to the student section. The band comes down the stairs. There's so many memories that you just cherish those moments and being able play in front of those fans.
Yeah, man, I always get fired up and watching the band run the stairs, and it always trips me out. It's happened every once in a while, but more of them don't fall down those stairs, man.
Yeah, that's what
get,
I remember. My mom, we still talk about it because I was trying to describe to my wife what it's like playing in that stadium at night. And my mom said the band comes down the stairs and so forth. And she said, I wonder what happened to that one guy that fell when they were coming down. There was a kid from my high school in the band at the time. And I don't know if it was him or not, but yeah, it's an exciting atmosphere.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, what the thing is, they dug it down, I think, twice. So like, the lower you get, the steeper it gets, and I got big feet, so it's it's kind of hard to get down there.
Yeah, it's a little stressful in the summertime. We run the stadium stairs and so forth, especially if they keep lowering the stadium. It's more stairs you got to run.
Right, exactly. Now the stadium looks a little different now than when you played. You got the whole big media box and the suites above on the it's on the opposite side, the visitor side now.
Yeah.
That wasn't even there yet. When you were there, what was the grid there? Was that there? I can't remember if that was there when you played there or not. Or was that still a parking lot? Where are my tailgates at now?
They were starting. I think they were in the talks of putting all that stuff together. I remember even with the stadium, the reconstruction, because there's so much historical aspects to the stadium. They didn't want to take that away, but how to expand the stadium. Coach Kelly had all these different drawings marked up and so forth. So, I mean, you see Cincinnati where they are now, and I remember just those conversations and Coach Kelly's vision for what Cincinnati could be at that time. It was just, for me, it was just a matter of time before it took off. Because, being in a city like Cincinnati and having that recruiting, the recruits in that area, I mean, just a matter of time before they took off and were a national powerhouse.
So let's talk about Coach Kelly. And I was a big Coach Kelly fan. I was very disappointed when he left, and now he left, and now he's down at LSU with his family down there.
Yeah.
He also developed a Southern accent down there. But what was it like playing for Coach Kelly anyway?
I would say it's probably different for a kid coming out of high school than it was for me because I had 4 years in college. And so my dad coached me in high school, and high school coaches are more mellow most of the time. And so I went to Wake Forest, and Coach Grobe was the head coach there, older guy, and he kind of was more mellow as well. And then you get Coach Kelly, who calls you about every name in the book on the sidelines and during practice, and some words I never even knew before. But as a 21, 22-year-old, I could take it and just understand the coaching points. Whereas, if I was just coming to high school, I mean, it would have been a very radical change for me. But, I would say, Coach Kelly, when he took a chance on me in 2007, because I didn't know where I was going to go to school when I was leaving Wake Forest. I was going to go to Minnesota, and then Glenn Mason and their staff got fired. So I had nowhere to go. And Coach Kelly kind of took a chance on me. So I was willing to do anything and everything for that man. And I still support him. I know he left Cincinnati, and that was a hard time for a lot of people. And leaving Notre Dame, I think even more people hate him now. But for what he did for me in my career and my education and so forth, there's nothing I wouldn't do for that guy, and I'll support him all the way through.
Yeah, I look at it differently. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have got to the Orange Bowl, Sugar Bowl, and we wouldn't even me as a UC fan, I never thought that UC would ever get to those heights. And Kelly got us there. So that's where, like, this year I've been telling everybody, it's like, enjoy this, because you never know when it's going to happen or if it's going to happen again. Because I didn't enjoy it too much, or I enjoyed it, but not as much as I probably should have back then. Yeah. And so that's why I always thank Coach Kelly for that. It was, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be in the Big 12 and all this other stuff. So.
Yeah, I think for him it was he was very good as far as the business side of things. He was a lot like Lane Kiffin. It didn't matter if it was bad news, good news. He was going to have Cincinnati on ESPN talking about something. I remember there was a special or an episode and the story about Marty Gilliard being homeless that year in the offseason. And a lot of players in the team. Yeah. And so I was new then, didn't really know Marty, but a lot of players like, wait a second, I don't know if that story's all the way true, because Marty was staying in our apartment at the time. We never let him stay in his car, but Coach Kelly played up on it because ESPN was buying into it.
Right.
They were talking about Cincinnati, and so it was in the news, and that's what I always said too. It's just, you're not in the middle of Kansas, you're not in the middle of Nebraska, you're in a professional city where I talk about the Bengals, and they got a lot of media attention and so forth. So Cincinnati just, I think it was a school waiting to erupt, and I think people are starting to find out about it. And now going to the Big 12 is just going to expose their brand even more, and it's going to be a household name here. And as far as college football is concerned, moving forward.
Exactly. Now, Matthew here says, I still remember the mock chop when he called up Rutgers. He was doing the Rutgers chop and was hyped.
That's what
Good.
They had Greg Schiano, who's back there now, but he was the
Mhm.
head coach there, and they had Ray Rice, who we learned about him later on in the
Right.
NFL and so forth.
Right.
But they had a pretty good team that year, and I think at one time the Big East was really good that year.
Yeah.
Rutgers was number 2 at one point. South Florida was number 2.
Mhm.
UConn was number 2, and then West Virginia was in their top 10. So it was pretty tough conference that year. And Rutgers had a pretty good team. They had the McCourty brothers in defensive backfield, and I remember they played Navy like a week or two before us. And
Yeah.
from Wake Forest, just the respect you have for the military academies when you play them. And there's a player from Navy that got hurt, and I think they took too much time on the field, and the fans started booing him.
Mm.
And so, for whatever reason, I remember my dad. Dad always tried to find ways to motivate me to do well. And he was talking to me, "Hey, can you believe they booed that Navy player?" And so I had a lot of pent up energy, and I wanted to beat them really bad. And if you remember that game, we were down 17-7 at halftime, came back
Mhm.
and beat them. But I used to get a shot at Toradol before each game.
Right.
And so a lot of your emotions and so forth, I think it throws you off balance. And so when we finally realized we were going to win the game, I remember because their motto that year is no matter what happens, if it's going good, going bad, just keep chopping wood.
Yes. Yeah, I remember
And
it. Yep.
so that was their signal. Their head coach would do that, and I was like, man, this is, I don't know, I didn't like that. I didn't like them, and so and my dad, I talked to him before the game, and their travel to the game, they had to cross some inner city neighborhoods, and my mom was a little scared, so I was like, you know what, we got to beat these guys, and I was just finding ways to motivate myself, and when we finally realized we were going to win, I just had to jog across their sideline, just hey, you're going to lose, but keep chopping next week. So
Right.
just send them home.
Exactly.
And just
Exactly.
to be a part of the Cincinnati program and having watched them in 2006 when I had no knowledge I was going to be playing in Cincinnati, beat Rutgers, and that memorable night as a Cincinnati Bearcat fan, to have the ability to go up there the next year, and they just expanded their stadium, playing at night, and great atmosphere. And I think the emotions got the best of me, and I just let them know that they can keep shopping somewhere else.
Hey, that's fine. I enjoyed the hell out of when you did that. Crib Keeper says, "Mr. Ben, do you
I
teach
see it.
kids at your
I
school
see. Yeah.
and how to put your mouthpiece in your mouth right?" I remember you, Mr. Mock, LOL, with your
Yeah,
mouthpiece hanging out.
so I always put my mouthpiece in the side of my mouth. I never really fit me right, never feel like I could talk right with a mouthpiece, and they had all these different molds that they would do, and it fit perfect, but I didn't feel like my voice was what it should be. So I always just put it in the side of my mouth, and now every time I look back at a picture of me playing football, I get my mouthpiece in the side of my mouth. I'm like, what was I doing? So I have to explain that to everybody. But it just I don't know. I don't know. Some people, when you're chewing on something, it makes you think, or I don't know.
Right,
I mean,
right.
when you get a shot or something, if you bite down on something, it
Yeah,
doesn't hurt as
right.
bad. So I always just put that mouthpiece inside and just bit down as hard as I could. I think I went through like 2 mouthpieces a game because I chewed
Oh,
on it
geez.
so much.
I do that. My son used to play hockey, and he would chew those things up. We'd go through 2 or 3 freaking seasons. I'm like, dude,
Oh yeah. Oh
what do
yeah.
you do? Do you eat these things? What are you
Yeah, and
doing?
there's sometimes the pieces we get into, and I'd always bite a hole in it because I chew on it so hard, but I don't know. I don't know,
So
just
I can see behind
bad
you,
habit.
you got the number 9 jersey. So
Yeah.
you got number 9 representing, doing pretty good this year. Have you gotten to watch Desmond Ritter at all? And how do you
Yeah.
think he is as
Yeah,
far as
I
quarterback
got to
goes?
watch him. I think, I've said this before, I think, as good of a football player as he is, I think he's even a better person, being a father and all that entails and the time commitment that takes, and then going to school and that time
Mhm.
commitment, and then football on top of that, the way he's handled everything and just the successes he's had on top of everything else he's doing in his life has been a joy to watch and an inspiration for, I think, a lot of people. But I'm excited for him to play on Friday and showcase again his talents and abilities and bring a win back to Cincinnati.
Absolutely. So do you get a little pride that he's wearing your number?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I wonder if does he even know that was your number, or I mean, you guys
He
have you guys
better.
ever had a conversation about it?
He better know. No, I think no, I think the best thing about him wearing number 9 is that they sell the number 9 jerseys in a lot of stores,
Yeah.
and so my kids will see that and they're like, "Hey, that's your jersey." It's like, yeah, that's still up there. So as long as somebody wearing number 9 is doing well and they're selling the jerseys, it looks like it's still mine to my kids
Right.
until they get old enough to realize it's probably Desmond Ritter's or somebody else's. But no, it's a good thing.
That's cool. Now, you mentioned a couple times here, UC moving on to the Big 12. I actually think the Big 12, whenever that move actually happens, it might be next
Yeah.
year after that, it might be a more competitive conference the way it's going to be compared to the way it is now. What's your thoughts on UC going there? And I have a feeling UC has a chance to I won't say dominate it, but win the league a couple times.
Yeah, I think they're gonna be. I always wondered why, in West Virginia, Louisville, and Rutgers, and Maryland, all these teams are realigning. Why someone didn't pick up Cincinnati? Because, like I said,
Right.
it's a professional city with a large market base and so forth. But going to the Big 12, I like the move personally because those teams are out here. Your Kansas State, Iowa
Yeah,
State,
they're closer for
Oklahoma
you.
State.
Yeah,
So I'm like, hey, I'm gonna be able to go to a lot of these games now. But so I'm excited about it. But it's going to grow the brand, like I said, of Cincinnati. There'll be more people exposed to the Bearcats and so forth. A lot more fans will develop because of it. So it's going to be good for the program in and of itself. But I think they're going to have a chance to win right away, especially with Oklahoma and Texas leaving.
right.
Doors going to be wide open, and that the pass happy offenses and the excitement that brings is going to do well as well. I mean, West Virginia's in there. It's a rivalry that we used to have that's going to be renewed. So that'll be exciting too. But those teams also have to travel to Cincinnati. So as far as recruiting, if you're from Cincinnati, you're wondering, hey, Ohio State or Cincinnati or Michigan, where am I going to go? And now you bring in Oklahoma State, and that's showcasing the city of Cincinnati. I think it's going to help with recruiting purposes as well.
Absolutely. I can't can't wait. I would love to know what day it's going to happen. Now, Crip, we always have to ask this: are you a Skyline Chili guy or are you a Gold Star guy? Or you just don't like it all?
So my roommate when I was at Cincinnati, I lived downtown. A guy from my hometown actually lived in Cincinnati and worked, so I lived with him, which is a pretty good setup. But he did a lot of commercials for Gold Star, so Gold Star was popular with him. But I was a Skyline Chili guy.
Oh yeah, that's my dude right there.
I don't know if it's called the Coney case or whatever it is. I used to get like 10 of them at a time, which wasn't good for my weight, but it was good for my taste buds. It's funny that got brought up because I just told my wife because my birthday's coming up January 4th, and I was like, hey, thank you. I was like, if you really want to make my birthday special, I said you got to order some Skyline Chili, get it delivered.
Yes,
and that'll make my birthday complete. But that's what I've also talked to her. I was like, man, I don't know what the deal is, but if we could open up a Skyline here, and if they won't do it, let's make something similar because I think it would take off here in Springfield. But I don't know. I miss it. I do miss Skyline Chili.
Yeah, they when I my wife's from Florida, so when we go down to Florida, it's funny. My in-laws are like, we gotta go to Skyline. I'm like, okay. I'm like, you do realize I can get it anytime I want, but I'll go get it. I got no problem with it.
yeah. I do miss it. It's an acquired taste. I remember the first time I went there, I went with like Tony Pike or somebody, and they're like, you're gonna love this. And I remember I was like, I don't know. And then 2 days later, it's like, we gotta go back to Skyline. I don't know what's going on. So it just kept pulling me back, and I'd go there all the time. I miss it.
Now I know. I think it was last week you were on Chad Brendel's podcast. You got you and a whole bunch of other guys, and I didn't get to watch it, but I got to listen to it earlier. How many guys were on that show with you? That was an awesome show to listen to, by the way.
So I think there was 7 other guys on there. Jason Fabini, who's that's someone I always heard the name of and saw pictures of when I was playing there and coaching there. But to actually be able to have a conversation with him and listen to him speak and see him as he's talking, that was a special time. And just some of those other Cincinnati greats. And I think Cincinnati continues to do well in football. I think with Fickle staying there, you're going to see a lot more alumni come back. And there's a strong base there. I think a lot of people don't really comprehend and understand because you've had so many different coaches, and some coaches reach out to alumni, and some other coaches do not do so much. So I think Fickle's doing a good job. And when you start looking at some of the players that actually played at Cincinnati and what they've done in the NFL and elsewhere in their careers, I think it's a pretty special thing to be a part of.
Yeah, I think they got, if I'm doing this right, they got the Letterman community or Letterman tailgate. I know they have a Letterman tailgate or whatever they call it.
Yeah, Letterman's Club. Yeah,
Letterman's Club. There it is.
Yeah. And it's a couple guys that were young guys when I was there are kind of spearheading that and helping out a lot with it, and they're doing a really good job. I think they got something planned for down in Dallas, and they're just doing a really good job of making sure everyone's still a part of what's going on and feeling a part of all the success they've had this year.
Yeah. Now I'm not going to Dallas. I wish I was, but my plan is when they beat Bama, we got to existence when they beat them, and we're going to, they play in Indy. I'm going to Indy. Now, if I don't get a ticket, I'm going to find someplace, some bar or someplace. And I don't know if you follow me on probably you're not on Twitter, but Facebook or whatever. I do victory laps around my neighborhood.
Right. Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah. So when we win the whole damn thing, I'm a fat almost 47-year-old guy.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna get one of those scooters. Might be able to run. Get one of those scooters and just go around the whole freaking stadium with my
Yeah.
UC flag.
Oh yeah,
But,
that's what with the national. It just seems like it's fate, doesn't it? I mean, the
yeah,
national championships in Indianapolis, and so it's not that far from Cincinnati. I can't imagine how many Cincinnati fans will be there in support of the Bearcats. But I'm hoping for a Cincinnati Michigan final two.
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't mind running back with Georgia. I have a lot of Georgia fans that came after me last year, and now they all kind of respect it. That's when last year I said, look, they went after me, dude. I said it's a winnable game, and they're like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not. It is. We're a good team and that's the way I feel about this game with Alabama. It's a winnable game. Now, what scares me is how many points they put on Georgia. That scared me. But Alabama barely beat a one-legged quarterback in Auburn. So it depends on what game or what team comes out. And UC, in my opinion, this year hasn't played their complete game yet. They haven't hit on all cylinders just yet, which is good. Yeah. Maybe that's what they need to do this game. I think Desmond and the guys got to get out to a fast start because I think they've started a little slow in a lot of games. What's your keys to the game?
Well, I think that Cincinnati's they got to continue to come in with the as the underdog with a chip on their shoulder and play that way throughout. Just play nasty, just play Cincinnati football.
Right.
Good defense and manage the game on offense and control the clock, control the ball as long as possible. Just get first downs. It's not about throwing an 80-yard touchdown pass on every play, but just manage the game, moving the chains, getting first downs, and keeping the Alabama defense on there. I know what Saban struggled with in the past is just those fast-paced offenses.
Right.
So being able to change the pace on offense and go at a high tempo and get them off balance a little bit, I think is going to be one of the keys. And then just playing sound defense, not getting beat deep. They're gonna make plays. They're gonna gain yards. Obviously, they may score points, but just trying to manage that and play like a bend, don't break defense, and try to get them to kick field goals instead of score touchdowns. And I think it puts you in a position to succeed and to win. Just you look at the Georgia game last year. I think that's the same recipe for success. It's a game that Cincinnati should have won, and could have won.
If they had to kick a 56-yard field goal to win the freaking thing.
I think just putting yourself and giving yourself a chance to win at the end. That's what Coach Kelly always says. Don't watch the scoreboard. Just the team that plays harder, longer is going to win. And I think with Cincinnati and being the underdog in a lot of these big games, I think that's going to be something that plays out. And then you get Alabama. A lot of those guys are looking at NFL careers, and they've already been there, done that. And I think I'm excited to see what happens. Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited. I'm excited to see if they go after Sauce Gardner because nobody's going after him this year. And then Kobe Bryant, I saw on Twitter, is going to be wearing number 8 in the bowl game for Kobe Bryant, the basketball player. So I that's the one I'm really looking for is our secondary versus their wide receivers. Now they're missing their best wide receiver, and I can't think of his name right now. He's not going to play, but I'm curious. Nobody's really thrown to Sauce Gardner at all this year. I mean, he's pretty much locked it down. I wonder if Alabama will stay away from him.
Yeah,
as well.
I think they're gonna try to attack him. I mean, I think if you go to Alabama, you're one of the top in the country, and you're not gonna back down from anybody.
Right.
And I think that plays into Cincinnati's hands too. Let's go after our the number one defensive back in college football and see what happens. That's as a Cincinnati fan, that's what you want them to do.
Right.
That's where you want the ball going. So. No, I'm excited about it. I think matching up, I think all across the board, there's not a lot of disadvantages, if any. And play inspired football. I mean, just play Cincinnati football and they'll be all right. The thing is,
Bearcats got nothing to lose. I mean,
exactly.
People are like, oh, they're going to go get blown out. This argument drives me nuts. Okay, they get blown out. Ohio State's gotten blown out. Clemson's gotten blown out. Oklahoma's gotten blown out. It doesn't mean bleep, It doesn't mean UC doesn't deserve to be there. Bull crap. No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean anything. Everybody gets blown out. It's it's college football.
Yeah, I think if you look down the coaching staff at Cincinnati. I mean, there's a lot of coaches that have been a part of those big games. When Coach Kelly was at Cincinnati and we went down and played in the Orange Bowl that first year, that was really his big moment. He'd never been there before.
Right.
As Coach Fickell with his history of being at Ohio State and playing those big games, he knows how to prepare a team. And then from a player's perspective, I was at Wake Forest and played in the Orange Bowl, and our coaches were more of a hands-off. And you can compare Wake Forest to Cincinnati because, Wake Forest, that was like their one time of going to a big, BCS game at that time.
Right.
And so the coach was like, hey, we're going to have fun. We're going to enjoy this moment. They kept it just like it was on campus. No curfew until the night before. But the problem was we played on January 2nd. So New Year's Eve, I remember on New Year's Day, I was walking down to breakfast at like 8 a.m. and there was guys coming in from the night out before because there's no curfew.
Right.
And then seeing it play out that way. And then with Coach Kelly the next year is more business oriented. Like, hey, we're going to have a 10 o'clock night. It's going to go back an hour each night. And then the night before the game, he took the players to a remote off-site location to a hotel to get away from everything. And so I think Fickle's he's been in those games, he's seen Coach Tressel, how he's done it, and he's going to do it the right way, and he's going to have guys ready to play. Because a lot of people don't think about that, but the week of the game, when you're in Dallas, Texas, and you're getting all, you get this stipend, you get all this money, and you can go out and do all this stuff, how those coaches handle those situations plays a major factor into the game as well.
Right. Well, it's a little different too this year with COVID and all that stuff. They can't go do as much as they normally like you guys could do. So that might stifle it a little bit on what they can and can't do. It's still gonna be fun. Like I said, I've been down to Texas. I've seen that stadium. That is one of the biggest damn stadiums.
Right. Yeah.
It's huge.
Oh yeah. My little brother got to play in the Cotton Bowl against Oklahoma State down there, and then he played in a high school all-star game there. So he's been in that environment. I remember just talking about how big it was and how big the jumbo screen is and everything.
Yeah, I didn't get inside. I just saw the outside of it. Holy crap! Paul Brown Stadium would fit inside of it.
Oh yeah,
that's how big it is. Yeah. So have you seen? Were you there when UC had the practice bubble, or was that after you?
That came right after me. I was in the talks with Coach Kelly where he was trying to get that done, and then it came after me after I was there.
So how big is that? Because the Bengals don't have one. UC finally has one. I mean, and people always give the Bengals crap for not having one, and UC finally has one. So how big of a deal is that for practicing and getting better when the weather gets cold? Which, I mean, hell, it's 50 degrees up here right now. It's not that cold, but
Right. Yeah. Well, that's what the mentality behind Coach Kelly was. If we're going to be competing and playing these big games and get this program to where it needs to be or it should be, we're going to have to be able to practice indoors because these inclement weather conditions. I remember when I was there and we were getting ready for our bowl game, we went up to some indoor soccer complex, and that's where we practiced. I forget where it was, but we practiced inside there, and the ceilings weren't high, so you couldn't punt, you couldn't kick, and so forth. So I think it's a big deal as far as if you're a team that's potentially going to compete for those national championships and so forth. What was I say? We have there's a big bubble here is indoor sand volleyball courts.
Really?
Down there. Yeah. It's the largest indoor sand volleyball courts in the United States, which I guess that's a title, but it's pretty impressive inside. You can do anything you want. So as far as in the offseason, then when they get back from the bowl game, they start winter conditioning and so forth. The quarterbacks, receivers are going to be able to continue to do what they want to do. Punters, kickers, they can go work out. But then I think another advantage is the pro days.
Right.
Because when I was there, the pro day was almost freezing cold outside. There's snow on the turf. And so now they can go indoors and your kids get a chance to get those measurements that other schools get to as well.
Now, speaking of the preseason and stuff like that and off-season workout, did you guys go to a higher ground when you were here?
Yeah, we went to higher ground. I spent 2 or 3 nights in Dabney Hall, and then we took a charter bus out to higher ground and stayed out there in those in that area. So
everybody talks about the food. Is the food as good as everybody says it is?
The food is as good as everyone says. If you ever have a relative or get out there for media day, make sure you take part in the food. That's like the best thing out there.
I thought I ever hear about it. Oh, the food's great. The food's great. I'm like, well, it must be because that's
the food.
They keep talking about it, man.
And so I was there. I played 1 year, and then I came back the next year, trying to get a 6th year. But wasn't really a part of the team at that time. But I was inexperienced because all the veterans, the 4-year, 5-year guys, they all had their Nintendo 64s and all these video games they brought with them. So all we did was play Mario Kart, and then we ate food and practice and meetings and so forth. So it was a good time to get to know each other.
And if I remember right, when you were already graduated when you came here, basically.
Right.
So you didn't have a whole lot of classes really to take care of, did you? Or were you mostly just
no? So at that time, and Coach Kelly just understanding the rule, and with the transfer portal now, it's a lot different. But
right.
Coach Kelly thought the only way I could be eligible to play in 2007 was if I was enrolled at Cincinnati in the spring. And so I was student teaching. So the only way I could take classes at Cincinnati was online. The only online program that I hadn't passed a deadline for was criminal justice. So my last year at Wake Forest in the spring, I was student teaching and taking online criminal justice classes. And then the plan was when I got to Cincinnati to start taking in-person classes in a degree that I was more interested in, but I fell in love with the criminal justice and I stayed online my entire years I was there. So I didn't have to actually wake up and go to class. I could sleep in or go get treatment on my arm, shoulder. I could watch film, do whatever I wanted to during the day, and then show up to practice. So it's pretty good gig for me when I was there.
Yeah, I bet some of the guys are jealous of you. What you got to do?
Oh yeah, and then I mean I'm sure now with COVID and everyone's taking these online classes, everyone kind of gets a little familiar with what I went through. But
Right.
it was a great experience. And on days I needed more sleep, I could sleep in and then show up when I wanted to.
So did you stay on campus or did you stay off campus?
I stayed off campus. I stayed down on Liberty Hill Avenue.
Okay.
Down there by close to downtown.
Yeah, because another thing I know some of the guys that brought up when you're on the podcast with Chad that I think one of them compared the dorm where they stayed at close to jail.
Oh yeah, yeah. We had to stay in those rooms for 2 or 3 nights. I remember staying there; it was just miserable. And I remember they asked me if we had air conditioning. I still don't think there's air conditioning in those halls. I don't know if they tore them down yet or not. But I remember me and Tony Pike shared a room, and we had a fan in there, which was an interesting experience. He used to set an alarm for like 1 a.m. in the morning. And
why?
And so the first night I woke up and I was like, what are you doing? And he told me the next day, he said, well, I like to, when your alarm goes off, you're always upset that you got to get up for the day. But he said, if you ever wake up, hours before you're supposed to and realize you still have 2 hours of sleep, it's like the greatest feeling in the world.
Right.
And so he was forcing his body to do that. So we'd wake up at like 1 a.m. and then go back to sleep, like wake up, like, oh, we got to get ready. It's like, wait a second, we still got 3 hours of sleep. So then those 3 hours are like the best sleep in the world. But then after like night 2, I was like, man, I know we're going to wake up at 1, so it doesn't work anymore. But yeah, and then as I was leaving the freshman dorms, they had these like suites and like their own rooms, their own lobby area. And, but no, I stayed downtown at a pretty nice place. My roommate was in commercial real estate. So we had a pretty nice setup down there that overlooked the city. So
that's awesome.
Complain. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a tour of the new workout facilities 3 years ago or something like that. It is unbelievable. I mean, it's top quality. I mean, it's as good as any D1. I mean, I've never been to anybody else's, but it looks pretty damn good to me from what I've seen.
Yeah, no, when I got there, I was highly impressed because they had just built the new weight room and then the training facilities that it looked like a pool that you could swim in, but it was a hot tub and then a cold tub for before and after practices. But I knew something was different about Cincinnati because I went in for my therapy and Carson Palmer was in there. And then the guy on game day David Pollock was in there with his neck injury. And so they're getting therapy and doing rehab with the UC trainers. And I'm like, okay, these guys are pretty legit.
Right.
These NFL players are in here. So
that's one thing UC has good medical schools. So they're known for that. They got their own a hospital.
Yeah. And that was the other cool part was so I'm coming off an injury, not knowing if I'm going to be fully healthy for the season. And the other guy doing therapy with me was Chad Johnson or Chad whatever his name is now. His brother was playing arena football and he was in there doing therapy with the UC players. And so my first legitimate pass coming back was to Chad Johnson because he used to show up and do the summer workouts with us. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And you see him on TV and so forth, and I think he plays a part because then when we're at a college, a university, doing our off-season workouts, and he's an NFL guy that's just showing up, and he's working out harder than anybody else is. I'm like, man, this guy is really dedicated to his craft, and he's really good athlete, really good person just to learn from and watch his work ethic.
That's awesome. Now I looked some stuff up here after your UC career. You played 2008 in the Saskatchewan Rough Raiders.
Yeah,
and then he played for the Commandos, and then the Tampa Bay Storm. My wife loves those teams. How did those go for you?
So, when talking with Coach Kelly and our training staff, my first year at Wake Forest, I had just coming off a foot injury, and so I redshirted that year. And so I should have got a medical hardship that year, but they didn't give it to me. And then
shocking.
Yeah. When you deal with the NCAA behind closed, it's amazing. And then I broke my arm and dislocated my shoulder. So I was out for 2 years and we were trying to prove that I was out for 2 years for medical reasons. So I should get another year back. And so it was looking good at times. And so throughout that whole summer, that spring and summer, I skipped all pro days, all that activity. And I just had surgery, so I wasn't really ready to perform anyway.
Right.
And so I needed another year at Cincinnati to get myself where I needed to be. And then turns out in September, I believe, that they told me that they were going to officially deny my 6 year of eligibility. So I'd missed all the NFL stuff.
Right.
And then I found out a team in Canada drafted me, and they wanted me to come up to learn the game because they're at the end of their season, and then come back the next year and kind of play for them. And so I went up there in the middle of nowhere in Canada.
How cold was it?
Oh, it was freezing. People were plugging in their cars to make sure that they start the next day.
Oh, geez.
And so I stayed in a hotel. I walked to practice every day. My little brother was coming into middle school, and I couldn't watch any of his games because I'm in Canada. And I'm like, what am I doing? So I moved back to Cincinnati and told Coach Kelly I was going to just train and rehab and get ready for the next year's NFL Pro Day. And he was like, well, if you're going to be on campus, help me coach. And
okay.
I was like, all right. So I helped coach in 2008, kind of helped run the quarterback room, and then stopped working out because I was working so much for Coach Kelly. Got out of shape, skipped the pro days again because I was like, I'm not ready for that. And I'm just going to coach the rest of my life. And then as I started coaching, I was like, man, I want to play again.
Right.
And so the only opportunity to play at that time was arena football team in Cincinnati. So I played for the Commandos, which, by the way, is the first professional football championship team in the city of Cincinnati. So make sure.
I don't even think I knew that.
Yeah, it's a fun fact. It's good trivia for Cincinnati history. But I got to play with Dominic Goodman and Terrell Bird and a lot of other guys that played in Cincinnati.
Didn't Eric Hicks play on that team too with you guys?
He showed up for a game. I think it's like a celebrity game or something. Where
okay, I thought he played linebacker or something like that.
Yeah, he showed up trying to get more fans into the arena. I mean, the first game he played, there was a line out the door so far that they delayed the game by an hour to try to get all the people in.
Wow.
There. And that's why
you guys played out the was that down at the Coliseum or is that at the Gardens?
Gardens, Cincinnati Gardens.
It's gone.
I went and told the guy that was running the Gardens, I was like, look, just open the doors and let them in for free.
Right.
I mean, just pack this place, let everyone have fun, and then they'll come back. But that was a fun year to play. Just with the guys I played with at Cincinnati, kind of give me because I wanted to play again after I played in the Papa John's Bowl against Southern Miss, and that's an opportunity to play again. And then I was like, I'm done with football. So I started teaching, and then Tampa Bay Storm called, and I was like, oh, man, I'll try it again. So I went down to Tampa Bay. I was there for about 2 weeks, and I was getting coached like I was 18 years old by some guy that I don't know if he even coaches football anymore. And I was like, what am I doing? I'm 18 hours away from home.
Right.
Playing arena football. So I was like, no, I just packed myself up and went home, and I was done and started teaching and coaching with my dad.
Yeah, that's cool. That itch is hard to get rid of, man. Once you play, I mean, I just played high school, and I know the first year that I couldn't play anything more. I'm like, it sucked.
Oh yeah, it is. It does. I mean, that's what people understand. I mean, when you're finally done playing, if you played at a high level, you definitely should talk to someone, or definitely have something else to fill that adrenaline rush that you're gonna miss, because it's a mess. It was hard that first year not playing again.
I bet it was, man. Well, at least you got to. Did it help to coach? Did it help to be a part of that at least? In the coaching room?
I think what helped me the most was my little brother was coming to high school, and to be there for him and watch him grow up through the high school ranks and play college football and kind of be a part of that with him meant a lot for me. It helped me. Hey, I don't need to play anymore. I can have a joy in life,
right.
In football through him. I mean, my life I wasn't on the street begging for anything. I really missed playing. I really missed playing, and thought I could still play. I still feel like there's some days I wake up like, man, if they just called me, if the Saints called me,
they might have. They're down.
Yeah, I said if they can't get a hold of Drew Brees, they call me. I'll come out and play for a game for them. But and then you get out there and throw a couple passes. Like, man, I'm glad I'm coaching.
So let's talk about the quarterback room that you were in there with. It was you, Tony Pike, and Zach Claris, right? Those are the three.
Yeah. So it was Dustin Grutza was the starting quarterback.
Yes, he heard it. Well, the reason Tony Pike got his shot because he got injured in, I think, the Oklahoma game.
So in that room when I was there, it was me, Dustin Grutza, Tony Pike, Craig Carey is still a quarterback at that time, Zach Claris, and Chaz Anderson. So we had 6 quarterbacks on scholarship. And I played in 2007. 2008, Grutza started off and did really well, and then got broke his leg, and Pike came in. And then Pike, if you remember, hurt his hand or thumb or something.
At the West Virginia game. I was at that game.
Yes. And then Claris came in, and then Claris didn't do well, and Chaz Anderson came in, and Craig Carey, and then Demetrius Jones came in that year too, from Notre Dame.
Okay.
Who ended up playing linebacker at Cincinnati. I have no idea how that kid ever started at Notre Dame, but he came in, and so that next year, I think Coach Kelly ended up playing 6 quarterbacks at one time or another during that 2008 season.
Wow. Yeah,
but,
Tony got hurt. I remember that. And then
yeah,
Zach was pretty much the quarterback in 2010.
that's 10.
9.
Came in
Yeah, 10.
2010, yeah.
Now he's like a big stud up in Canada now.
Oh
He's
yeah,
won
he's
the
like
Grey Cup.
he's the Doug Flutie of Canada right now.
So yeah, you ever keep in contact with him and talk to him about ball?
No, I haven't been able to talk to him in a while. He's from Steubenville, Ohio, and Steubenville's high school coach Reno Sokovich and my dad are pretty good friends, and so they used to talk. We talk to each other through our high school coaches. But no, I'm glad he's doing really well. He's worked hard and got himself to where he deserves some success. So,
well, Tony Pike's a big radio guy down here now. He's got his own show and and all that stuff. You ever keep in touch with Tony?
Every once in a while, Facebook message him just about some joke from the past or some memory that we have. But
why hasn't he had you on his show? I mean, what we got all this stuff. I mean, you were the quarterback before him. I mean, what?
Yeah, I don't know. We used to hang out a lot. He's from Reading, Ohio, and so he used to go up there and spend a lot of time with his family and a lot of trips to Skyline with the Pikes.
Right.
But no, he's a good guy, and I wish he would have stayed healthy, and he knows how long he would have played in the NFL. But
he had a shot at Carolina. He hurt his shoulder, I think.
Yeah. And if there's anybody has ever played at Cincinnati that was a true Cincinnati fan, it's Tony Pike.
Yeah.
Who he taught me a lot about the history of Cincinnati and the old C. I had a shirt that had the old C Paul on it, said I couldn't wear it anymore. And so I was like, I'm old. What are you talking about? And then I saw, there's a difference between the C Pauls.
Right. Yep.
And so he taught me a lot about the history, and big basketball guy and football guy. And so somebody that, I was glad to see him have so much success as a quarterback at Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, man, I would go to games. I remember going to games back in the early 90s when Tim Murphy was a coach, and you could basically walk. I mean, you could walk into the game.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to buy. I mean, there was nobody there. We would go, and from that to when you played to when Tony played to where it is now, it's unbelievable. That's why for me as a Cincinnati Bearcat fan, lifelong Bearcat fan, I'm still just in other shock of where we are at compared to where we were. I mean, I've had Jim Kelly on the show here before. He's the Bearcat radio announcer.
Yeah.
And he played back in the 70s and stuff. And he's when we beat Notre Dame, dude, he was tearing up. I was tearing up when that's why I'm acting like a retard going out running around my neighborhood with a flag, because this is just something that as a lifelong Bearcat fan, I never thought it would happen. Especially we went to Orange Bowl, Sugar Bowl, that was awesome, and then I just all right, maybe we're not going to get there because we're in a American. It's not a Power 5. This has just been unbelievable. And when you got here and you guys started where we're at now, it's just been an absolute blast. And I don't know about you. I've had so much fun this year.
Yeah, no, I think that's the story my dad always tells, because he was there with me when they said that there's nobody comes to these games.
Right.
Don't expect to play in front of a lot of people. And so it was a conversation. My dad was there, and the SID sports information director was there. Man, I wish I remember his name. He was a good guy. And Mike Daniels, and we were all talking, and they kept saying no. I was like, what about when we played? They're like, no, nobody's coming. They said we played Penn State back in whatever year, and it wasn't
our ass kicked.
Yeah, and it wasn't even packed in. And I was like, man, I don't see it. I mean, if people go support the Bengals and Reds and we win here, people will come. And I remember that the first game we came out and they had those the advertisements that they sold. The first 20 rows were blocked off, and I was like, what is going on? And then by the Marshall game, then the Louisville game especially, and then West Virginia and so forth. I mean, you couldn't find a place to sit, and then it's kind of continued on from there. But it's just it's exciting to see as a former player and as a fan. And I didn't grow up a Cincinnati fan, but I think it became that Rutgers game in 2006 really stands out to me. I think that's where I was like, no affiliation, didn't know I was going to go to school there or not, but I was like, man, I hate Ohio State more than anybody else. And so when they won, I was like, hey, wait a second, that's Cincinnati's in Ohio. That could be a potential rival. And when Gaduli almost led them to victory back down at the
I was at that game. I was in the end zone where the 3 touchdowns, or Murray almost caught one, Ollinger almost caught it. I thought Murray caught it.
Yeah, I
I
do
was
too.
freaking out, going nuts. I thought he caught it.
And so there were times and moments as growing up, I was a Cincinnati fan. Anytime I played Ohio State, I was a Cincinnati fan, and then I always liked the Jumpman uniforms they had in the '90s, and so I always try to get a jersey or a pair of shorts. And so I was a Bearcat fan at times, but never you never associated them with the Michigans or Ohio States,
right?
And then when they you go back to that, I think it's 2002 when they almost beat Ohio State, and then being on the big stage against West Virginia when they were ranked really high and we were in the top 15 in the country, and then the Sugar Bowl, Orange Bowl years, and then beating Notre Dame. I mean, there's just been steps along the way. We've been on the brink, and so that's what I'm hoping this game against Alabama just gets us over the hump, and now you're in the conversation for the years to come.
Exactly. Sounds great. I appreciate you coming on, Ben.
Yeah.
Tell everybody where they can follow you at, what you got going on.
Yeah, well, right now, I've limited my social media. I try to spend as less time on my phone as possible. I trying to, I don't know, not go back in time, but reduce my standard of living, I guess, and have less available to me, and so I could focus more. I just had a son. Actually, he was born on my birthday, so he's about to turn 1 year old here in a couple weeks, and so try to spend as much time and focus as I can on my kids here in the house and my wife and what we're doing as a high school football team, and as less time as possible on social media. But right now I'm just limited to Facebook. I think maybe Twitter here in the future and get back on there and so forth. But I'm just really on Facebook and
that's how I found you.
That's where I'm at. Yeah, that's the only place I'm at right now. So maybe I'll expand my horizons. I just see so many kids in my classroom on social media. I'm like, man, I just don't want to be one of those guys. Yeah, always on my phone. So I want to enjoy.
You got to change your Facebook page to Bearcat. You didn't get onto the whole vibe that Travis Kelce started.
Yeah, I know. My wife told me to. She said, hey, all these Cincinnati players are doing it. You should do it too. But I kind of know I got to keep that picture of me and my wife up there, and my kids. So I'm gonna probably stick with those. But I've wanted to many times. It's like, which picture do you choose?
Right, exactly. All right, Ben. Well, I appreciate you coming on. We'll definitely have to do this again sometime. And dude, hey, if they win, we should go meet in Indy and go have a beer and have some fun.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll be up there.
All right, Ben. Take it easy. Thanks.
All right, yep, we'll see you. Thank you.
Bye. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. He's a great dude. Like I said, he's one of the better quarterbacks UC's had, in the last couple of years. I mean, he helped start this thing, so I appreciate him coming on. Let's get to the Facebook groups that let me live stream. I appreciate every single one of them. They're Houday Nation, Houday Legion, Bearcat Ruckus, Bearcat Country, Cincinnati Reds, riding third, heading for home, the Ohio State Bucknuts, the Ice Bar, and then follow me on all my social media platforms, all under Sports with Strawberry Ice. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Twitter handle is at Jeff A. Trunable. TikTok is at Iceman90. If you missed any of the interview and you don't want to sit there and watch us for an hour, you can listen to it on the podcast. It'll be on BeanPod, Apple iTunes, Spotify, Google, Stitcher Play, pretty much wherever you get your podcast. Please make sure to rate, like, and review. Give me a 5-star review and leave a comment so more Cincinnati fans can find my podcast. YouTubers are at 1,435 subscribers. That is awesome. So if you have yet to subscribe, please do so. Go to YouTube channel Sports with Strawberry Ice. Just a heads up, I got one show tomorrow, and then I'm taking Friday off because I'm going to watch the Bearcats. So tomorrow will be the last show of probably the year, actually, because you're New Year's Eve. So for all you guys who've been watching me, my loyal guys in the chat crew, Blackthorn, Crip, Crown, Chris, all you guys, I appreciate you guys. Rob, Royal Flush Terry, I appreciate all you guys watching every single day and commenting, and it's been a great year. Let's hope 2022 rolls on, or 2023 rolls on to even a better year. And other than that, that's just sports, baby. See ya!
Let's go. In the night, stripes in our veins, sparks gonna fly. The beast is awake, orange, black, and white. Cause when the jungle come alive, Houday, we ignite and Cincinnati, we gon' rise and in the jungle, we unite and dripping orange and black and white. Houday, when we fight, live and Cincinnati, we gon' rise in the jungle, we unite in dripping orange and black and white. All day when we fight, live and die in these stripes. Now who gotta move like it on? Now who wanna move dancing on? Now who wanna move on? If you got stripes and you let the city know you rock 'em, yeah we got 'em, yeah we fought 'em. Like that black and orange up